Welcome, learners, to another deep dive. Today, we're tackling a challenge that frustrates so many of us: how to truly think in English. Rather than getting stuck in that constant cycle of mental translation, we've got some, illuminating source material today, drawing from a program specifically designed to help learners make a fundamental brain switch towards genuine fluency. Our mission for this deep dive is to unravel why this translation trap is such a common hurdle and delve into a practical program's approach to overcoming it, and then pull out some incredibly actionable techniques you can apply immediately to sharpen your listening and pronunciation in real-world English.
Yeah, and it's quite a striking statistic right off the bat, isn't it? Our sources highlight that a staggering 87% of English learners find themselves, ensnared in this translation trap.
Yeah.
The core insight here seems to be that truly fluent speakers operate with an automatic brain switch, like a direct processing mechanism that most learners never fully tap into. So this deep dive aims to reveal some concrete methods proposed to help you flip that very switch.
Okay, let's unpack this translation trap a bit more then. Our sources make it pretty clear that constantly translating in your head word for word, that's a primary reason why so many learners feel sluggish and, stuck when trying to communicate in English. It's not their fault, obviously, but it undeniably becomes a massive barrier to achieving natural fluency.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the real goal isn't merely to know English words. It's about processing and responding to them intuitively without that intermediate step of your native language getting in the way. The concept of a brain switch really speaks to this shift, doesn't it? Moving from conscious, kind of effortful translation to automatic comprehension and seamless production, which is, the hallmark of true fluency.
So the big question is, how do you actually make this shift? Our source material introduces a specific framework called the 30-Day English Listening Challenge. Apparently, this program is specifically crafted for students who struggle to understand native speakers in everyday, authentic situations. Things like podcasts, movies, TV shows, and just fast-paced conversations. It highlights a critical gap. Traditional school exercises often don't adequately prepare students for the raw, often rapid reality of English as it's truly spoken.
That makes you wonder, doesn't it? What exactly are these traditional methods missing? Why is there such a gap? The source seems to point out that real-life English is packed with nuances, things like speed, different accents, and especially connected speech where words often blend together, like gonna instead of going to, or did you, sounding like did ya, stuff like that. These elements aren't always fully covered in, let's say, more academic settings. And the challenges focus on British culture interviews with authentic speakers, like Charlie from Real English with Real Teachers, Jess from Love in London, Joel and Leah, that really emphasizes this dedication to genuine dialogue.
Right. And this is where the challenge introduces a truly impactful element, I think. Its emphasis on daily lessons. Learners engage with short, authentic clips from interviews. They do targeted exercises. And then they deeply analyze the language, pronunciation, and vocabulary. It's apparently built for rapid progress, though learners do get lifetime access to the material, which is good. Okay, so one of the core practices, our source details transcription tasks, calling them incredibly effective ways of putting your listening skills to the test. Makes sense. So you listen to short clips, you write down exactly what you hear, and you have the freedom to pause or re-listen as many times as you need. For instance, we hear 3 distinct clips from an interview with Charlie, the one from Real English with Real Teachers who lives in Australia. He's discussing some interesting cultural differences. So in the first clip, Lucy says, "Wow, I really didn't expect that," but it's delivered very quickly, like native speaker conversational pace. Then clip 2, Charlie states, "I guess it's because of the climate and the power of the sun." That one's a bit slower. And finally, clip 3, also from Charlie, we hear, "The biggest thing in Australia for us was the fact that they get up very early and go to bed very early." It's a longer sentence, sure, but the vocabulary isn't particularly advanced.
Right. And this type of exercise, the transcription, it directly addresses those speed and connected speech issues learners face. It forces active listening. It makes you deconstruct that rapid spoken English rather than just, passively hearing it. It's really about segmenting the speech stream accurately.
Segmenting. I like that term.
Yeah, it forces your brain to kind of bypass that need for mental translation step by step. By deconstructing it, you're essentially retraining your auditory processing, helping you recognize patterns directly, which is, a core part of that brain switch we talked about earlier.
Okay, so it's more than just catching words.
Much more. It's about hearing the flow and the connected sounds, a powerful way to move beyond passive listening.
Got it. So after you've sharpened your ears with transcription, the challenge moves into comprehension. The source explains that you'd play a full interview clip twice and then answer questions based on what you hear. The full clip, for instance, with Charlie. It reveals a really fascinating cultural difference he noticed after moving to Sydney. Australians tend to get up and go to bed very early. He calls it a completely different shift compared to the UK. And his hypothesis for this early schedule, he says it's because of the climate and the power of the sun. It just feels right, he says, to start your day when the sun is bright at 5 or 6 a.m., which apparently led to a humorous shock for him. Wanting coffee at 2 p.m., only to find coffee shops in places like the Gold Coast, just north of Sydney, already shutting down around 1:30 p.m.
Huh? Yeah, that's a great example. And that humorous shock about the coffee shops closing early. It isn't just a fun detail, is it? It's a perfect illustration of how cultural context directly impacts comprehension. When you hear these nuances, these real-life details, your brain starts building a richer, more intuitive model of English, which in turn reduces the cognitive load of trying to translate everything literally.
Ah, I see. So understanding why the coffee shop is closed is part of understanding the language in context.
Exactly. That early closing is quite a shift in daily rhythm, as he put it. And our sources explain shift here means more than just like a work period. It's about a whole change in routine. And that's where understanding related words like daylight hours or even the subtle nuance of a common phrase like feels right becomes crucial for full comprehension.
Okay, that makes sense. So next up, the program integrates gap fill exercises. You see a transcript with missing words, and you fill them in while listening to the clip. Seems like a natural progression.
It is. It reinforces listening comprehension by specifically targeting vocabulary and context. It helps cement those phrases, like the other way around, or even just simple terms like coffee shops, meaning cafes. It helps fix them in your mind in a way that's much more active than just, say, reading a definition off a list. And it shows how words like farmer or maybe party scene can just appear naturally in conversation, not just in textbook examples.
Okay, context is key. But what truly elevates this approach, according to the source, especially for pronunciation, is the deep dive into specific aspects of native speech, like dropping the T sound or using a glottal stop.
Ah, yes, this is crucial. And it's not just about what traditional methods might lack, but also how these exercises actively re-sculpt your listening habits. They train you to really engage with native speech patterns. Now, why is dropping the T so challenging for learners? Well, it's subtle, right? But it's everywhere in native accents. The source explains that T is often dropped when the following word starts with a consonant sound, like the fact that it can sound more like the fact that they.
Right, or don't they becoming don't they? I hear that all the time.
Exactly. It just smooths the speech flow.
Okay, let's really hone in on this glottal stop then. What exactly is it? It sounds maybe a bit technical.
It can sound that way, but the action itself is pretty simple and very common. It's particularly prominent in the middle of words, where it often replaces the T sound entirely, like better becoming beer or butter becoming beer.
Ah, okay, so it's that little catch, like
Yeah.
you briefly stop the air.
Precisely. It involves your vocal folds closing briefly, creating almost a tiny voiced cough sound, which stops the flow of air for a split second. And what's truly insightful here, and perhaps surprising to some, is that while many might associate it with specific regional accents, maybe like Cockney, the source explicitly states it's also a common feature in received pronunciation, RP, the so-called Queen's accent.
Really? Even in RP? That is interesting.
Yeah. It shows how widespread it is across different English accents, which underscores that understanding the glottal stop isn't just for understanding certain dialects. It's a vital part of authentic listening comprehension in general. It's a key piece of that brain switch puzzle. Think about how often you probably hear it without even consciously noticing. That's the level of immersion this challenge seems to aim for.
Okay, so this deep dive has really shown us that moving beyond that frustrating translation trap, it involves a multi-pronged approach, doesn't it? Targeted practice and real-world listening, actively deconstructing speech through methods like transcription, building vocabulary, but specifically contextual vocabulary, and critically, understanding these nuanced pronunciation patterns like the glottal stop.
That sums it up well. And the sources also mention, practically speaking, that the program offers things like a time-limited special price, plus various social media handles and a website. Apparently, it features an interactive pronunciation tool, too, and even a vlogging channel with fully subtitled videos for learners, which really highlights the value of comprehensive learning resources that genuinely go beyond traditional, maybe less effective methods.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner, listening right now? It means that achieving true fluency isn't just about accumulating more vocabulary lists and grammar rules. It's about actively training your brain to process English in the same intuitive way native speakers do. Often, it seems, by noticing these small, sometimes surprising details like coffee shops closing early or drop T's that actually make a monumental difference.
Absolutely. Which leads us to a crucial question for you to consider as we wrap up. How might focusing deliberately on these subtle elements, things like pronunciation details, connected speech, cultural context, how might that not just profoundly improve your listening skills, but also maybe transform how you approach your own spoken English, making it feel more natural, more authentic, and ultimately, well, more effortless?